The classic Hollywood Western was a romantic epic complete with damsels in distress, outlaws, and the selfless white hat wearing heroes motivated by justice and duty. The genre was dominated by directors such as Howard Hawks, John Sturges, and John Ford. For years, this was the formula. This was Western films. Until an Italian by the name of Sergio Leone showed up and flipped everything on its head. Leone had worked as an assistant in both Italian and US films from the time he was a teenager. His early career had him working on the ubiquitous sword and sandal epics that saturated the time period. Also known as peplum, these biblical and historical epics were beginning to be viewed as less refined, with the hero using brute strength to solve his problems. The Italians loved US westerns, where the hero used cunning and guile to get out of trouble. Leone is credited with inventing the spaghetti western, which stripped classical westerns of their grandiose and romantic ideals and replaced them with something grittier. Where classic heroes were motivated by a sense of justice, the hero of a spaghetti western was driven by something much more common: greed. When asked about how his films compared with Ford's, Leone said, "In Ford's films, when the actor opens a window, it is always to look at the immense future in front of them. In mine, while opening a window, they fear getting a bullet between the eyes." This quote sums up a major difference in classic westerns and Leone's unique style, the character's attitudes towards cruelty. The hero is cynical and stoic, devoid of friendships, only making alliances when it serves their purpose. This theme is repeated throughout Leone's films, and is epitomized in his Dollars trilogy: A Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Ignoring for the moment how Fistful is a shameless remake of Kurosawa's Yojimbo, it clearly shows the emergence of Leone's signature look and sound. Sound plays a huge role in his films. You cannot talk about Leone without mentioning Ennio Morricone. The two are all but synonymous. Morricone replaced classical orchestras with a more intimate, thematic sound. The spaghetti westerns were made with a much smaller budget, and therefore the music was reduced to a few instruments, often just a guitar supplemented with sound effects and guttural male voices. The minor key chords created tension and drama, while the driving tempo created the feeling of galloping horses. Traditional instruments became noises, and noises were treated like musical instruments. This swapping of traditional and uncommon elements reflects Leone's intention to deconstruct the classic Western. Leone was a master of tension building. He knew how to draw out the simplest interactions and build to a violent climax. I want to leave you with one of my favorite scenes, a scene that I feel is a microcosm of Sergio Leone's filmmaking. You can learn everything you need to know about him, about his directing style, his themes, his mise-en-scene, in the climactic showdown of the good, the bad, and the ugly. As the scene begins, it is possible to hear the off-screen diegetic ambiance, suggesting a space extending beyond the visible action. Initially, the music has no rhythm, and this causes tension. When the music assumes a regular rhythm, it resolves the tension, but soon builds again as the regularity forces us to await a breaking point. Simultaneously, the ambiance is cut off, which limits our scope to the visible scene. The music cuts short on a fourth, withholding the final chord sequence, and leaving us holding our breaths, waiting for resolution. The diegetic sound effects return to extend the space as the volume again begins to swell. The editing gets faster, and the camera gets closer. We see Leone's signature extreme close-ups, harshly lit faces, covered in sweat. You can feel the heat of the environment. Eyes shift, focusing on their targets. Close-ups of the guns heighten the growing buildup and the dangerous climb towards a violent culmination. The rhythm in the non-diegetic music changes one last time, creating a temporal vectorization, projecting us to the inevitable conclusion and driving the tension to a near unbearable level. The final release, as Blondie draws and fires, is cathartic. This scene is nearly 5 minutes of pure cinematic mastery, Without a single line of dialogue delivered, the sequence rises, relaxes, and rises again, holding tightly to our attention the entire time. This style, the long, wide shots and the sudden extreme close-ups, the harsh, natural lighting, the frenzied editing, the dark, cynical themes, and the distinct score, born from a partnership with Morricone, define Sergio Leone's look and, to me, identify him as a true auteur.
Oh!